Morning everyone. It's a beautiful day in Denver. We're about to modify an AK. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut along the line of progression and our sagittal alignment line in order to make grooves in the positive model so that we can later line everything back up. So if you noticed, I cut all the way proximally because after we get done modifying, that line is going to disappear. So at least if we have the upper alignment line, we'll be able to translate that down. So I once got asked, what do you think about when you're modifying? And the short answer is, why doesn't anybody like me? But all joking aside, here's kind of what I start out with. I get my length first, draw this out on the lateral wall where I took my measurements to begin with. So there's my ischial height, my 1 inch, 2, 4, 6, 8. Run over to the medial wall, get my ischial height, and then I start to sketch out my trim lines. So we're gonna come into the gluteal fold. We know our greater trochanter is 1.5 inches above ischial level. So right here. We've got our ASIS mark here. So we're going to start our curve back over, follow that elastic strap around. And from our thumb indentations, we can figure out adductor channel. This is where I was pushing on for the scarpas, for the diagonal ML. Christian's hand was here flattening the femur over wallet hollow. And then the medial compression to get our soft tissue ML. When I measured before, I measured to my target, and we have our measurement sheet here in front of us. So I like to measure and record the difference. If the difference is over, I write it on this side of the line. So our target for the 1 inch level is 665. I'm at 74.0, so do the math there. It's pretty early in the morning, but it looks like the difference there is about 40 millimeters, so that's going to be a lot of reduction. All right, so after we got our trim line sketched out and how much we're over on our circumference levels, I like to just kind of sketch out where we're going to be removing the most of the plaster. So in the back, it's sort of this horseshoe shape there. So this lateral strut sort of posts up behind the femur for stabilization. We're cutting under the glutes to help get our AP. We're going to remove more out of the medial compartment. The scarpas area is really pretty firm tissue mass, so we're not going to take a lot, maybe just down to the indentation. The lateral wall, we're going to take quite a bit off, except for the very distal aspect. And our goal really is kind of with Ivan Long's research to get a narrow ML shape. I like to think of this as starting with the easiest steps first, and then the steps that require the most guesswork, do those at the end. So the lateral wall, the medial wall, we'll wait to do those till the end. All right, so if you notice, I like to move around the cast. I kind of think of this like with the high five principles of opposite walls. You can think of it as 4 supporting walls or 3 supporting walls, but really we're just we're trying to get the APs and the MLs of the socket to match up. All right, so flattening the lateral wall, we're doing that in the line of progression. Because we have to reduce so much, we're going to go back and we're going to take more off the hamstrings, the medial aspect, the anterior lateral, just to get down to our circumferences. All right, now it's probably a good time to take a look at our circumferences and see how those have changed. We're about 4 centimeters off still at the top, 1.5 to 2.4 here on the distal. So we're getting pretty close. We're just a millimeter away here at the 2-inch level. We're right on the 4. We're 3 under on the 6 and 2 over on the 8. I don't worry about those too much. That's within a pretty good margin of error. Some things I'm thinking about as I'm modifying, I don't want to take a whole lot off the distal lateral or the anterior, just because those are high pressure areas for the femur. And that 1-inch level is a transition zone between high pressure and low pressure, so if it's over a little bit, it's because we want the tissue to kind of slope out. And we do need to factor in that we're going to be scrubbing this down. I think, a cast this big, there's going to be more compression of the soft tissue, so I'd rather go a little bit tight. I think we'll still be able to get them in. It's important not to touch the distal end until you're at your final stages, just because that you may need that for your length. So I think next step, we're going to start working on the lateral wall. So I like to use a sponge with my sand screen. It does a couple things. It makes things go a little quicker, and it also moistens the cast so that when we do plaster buildups, they're going to stick to it. So I like to smooth before we add. All right, so after we've gotten all the little fine tuning done with removal plaster and blending in, rechecking the measurements. This is a good reference for after we fit the socket, just to learn from it. So we're a centimeter under, millimeter under, 4 over, 5 over, 3 over. Seems to me like a pretty good educated guess. We're gonna continue to do our build-ups here and attach our plate. Based on our line here in the sagittal plane, it looks like we're going to need to stack a couple adapters to get our TKA line where it needs to be. But this is our finished positive model. We are about ready for pulling plastic, maybe a little dry sandpaper right before we go.